right, welcome again. It's another week of Ron's Cool Feature of the Week. And this week I got Tom Campbell on. We're going to talk a little bit about something Tom might be just slightly passionate about. Maybe slightly, Tom, just a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Just a little bit, right? But I got to say, this all came about because I was looking for people to tell me about cool features, and everyone goes, you should talk to Tom. They didn't go, hey, here's a cool feature. I had like 3 people go, hey, ask Tom what's cool. And I go, oh, all right, well, I should probably talk to this guy, right? So Tom, what is cool this week, man?
So this week we're going to talk about DEM, and in specific, we're going to talk about the condition engine and the ability to evaluate conditions within Dynamic Environment Manager, therefore exercising increased control over your user's environment based on a myriad of parameters that you can choose.
The DEM condition engine, and the idea about being able to customize it and build it for your environment to take care of some of those tasks that are always driving admins nuts.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. So I mean, we know that driving admins nuts is not a good thing to do, right? But you know, why is this important? Why did we build this? Why do you think that people should care?
So let's start first with DEM itself. And the biggest thing that DEM does, there are a number of user state management tools that exist and are available from myriad of vendors. None of them has done what DEM has done. And that is that DEM has effectively eliminated the need for the profile as the source and store of user state data.
Okay.
We all know
profiles has been everybody's headache since they came out. Yeah.
And profiles are bad for 3 reasons. 1, they move. 2, they move at the most inopportune time. And 3, they're required to work and function properly for the operating system to work and for your user to be productive. So with DEM, we can simply use a bare bones local profile that exists on the master image, the default profile. And then all of the actual user state data is stored, in the case of applications, in zip files in DEM on a common UNC share.
And see, to me, this is so interesting because, you know, since the late 90s, profiles have been the bane of people's existence, right? I mean, I am an old school guy. I remember NT351 and the early NT40 and terminal server days, and doing things like hacking the system to tell it load a default manual profile, and then using hacked office tools to inject registry entries just to get around the concept of loading a roaming profile and the bloat that came with it and all of that, right? So what is this doing? You know, I mean, we talk about it storing application settings, but how does this work technically?
So what DEM does is it captures only the components of a particular setting or settings that are required for that application settings to be stored. For instance, if I take Mozilla Firefox and I look at what's required to store the settings for Mozilla Firefox, it's about 3 registry keys and their subkeys and 1 folder, and that's it. And so that is
that's what it's grabbing.
Yep, that's what it's grabbing, and that is captured and zipped up, and when the user logs out, it's stored in a UNC share for that user.
See, and that is like taking all this stuff that was, and I wouldn't even say taking the stuff and programmatizing it, but actually taking these concepts that people have tried to work around this problem for years and actually putting it into code and into a product. Right?
Yeah, and we're just eliminating the problem. We're not saying here's a different way to do profiles. We're saying, why worry about the whole profile? Why not just store the settings for the individual app or the individual Windows setting or what have you? And one other thing I want to mention is that we're storing them as common zip files. So if you're an admin and you want to go in and look at somebody's settings, you double click that zip file. And if it's a registry key that we're storing, guess what? It's a .reg file. You can look at it as an admin.
You can take a look right in that reg file, expand it, and look at it. That's amazing.
Yes, sir. We're not storing it in a database as a blob or something like that.
I love it. Now, all right, final question. I always ask those 3 questions. Here's the third one. Is what should someone know? What should that admin or that corporation know? Hey, we're about to try this out. We're about to play with it. Is there anything they should know before they start jumping in with both feet.
Absolutely. And the specific portion of this that I really wanted to talk about and that I'm really excited about is the condition engine. And what I want to say to your users out there about the condition engine is that because, and you'll see this in a moment, I'm going to do a quick demo, because we can actually base a condition on a script that you write as the admin, this thing is entirely and endlessly expandable in terms of the types of evaluations that you can do before, say, loading the settings for Mozilla Firefox, or before allowing or disallowing an app to run from a certain location on the C drive, or before mapping a printer, you know.
Okay. So they can make they can actually customize this, make it the way they want I hate to say want, right? It's the way they need to modify that environment prior to the app loading. They can do all that. It's extensible. It's completely customizable for what they want it to do. It's essentially a platform for that, not just some tool.
Yes, sir. And every action that DEM can do can be tied to a condition. And then those conditions can be assembled into condition sets, which end up basically, the condition sets end up at maturity describing the different use cases and the different groups of users. So you will end up, say I'm a bank, you'll end up with a teller condition set.
Okay.
And so
done by user profile or group or whatever based on,
right.
And when I say profile, not profile, right?
Right.
Who they are, what groups they're in, et cetera.
Yes, sir. So I'm going to go ahead and with your
Let's
permission,
share
I'll
it.
go
Yeah,
ahead and
let's take a look at this thing.
share the screen here, and we will get this show on the road. As you can see here, I want to back out of this real quick and just show you, you know, some of the things that DEM can do. If we look at applications, I just want to demonstrate here. I said Mozilla Firefox. These are the required objects to store the settings for Mozilla Firefox right here. And as my user logs in and they import Mozilla Firefox, I can tie that import to any number of conditions. I can say if it's Tuesday and the endpoint is coming from this set of IP addresses and the endpoint name is this, and this registry key exists, and the user is in this organizational unit, and if the endpoint is running on a battery, only if all those things are true do I want you to do this thing, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And not only that, not only can you create those conditions, you can then come over here and add conditions into condition sets. And like I said, what I see my customers doing is I see them ending up with condition sets that are named after their use cases.
Okay, that makes sense. And this,
Okay.
you know, before I was a software guy, I was consulting all the time, and I did a lot of healthcare environments, right? And in healthcare, I almost hate to call them this, right? Because healthcare software vendors get upset, right? But the legacy software models were so dependent on things like the IP subnet you were coming from, the name of the device even. Yeah. And they were basing everything like printer mappings. And when I'm in this application and I'm coming from this device name, the 3-digit prefix defined what printer something went to. I mean, it's almost asinine to us now, but it harkens back to the old terminal days. And
yes, sir. I see that with a lot of the electronic medical record software that I deal with. I work in healthcare quite often.
Yeah, and you see this in like you said, it could be teller applications, it could be different types of things. When you have a business that has these kind of grown up, organic, different work models, right, where you have frontline workers like tellers, you have people or nurses or practitioners, depending on the business you're in, we have to configure their apps and their environment differently, even a lot of times for the same application. So this is really fitting into a bunch of different organizations here.
Oh yeah, and not only that, with Direct Flex right here, I can choose to only load the settings for Firefox when I see Firefox launched. So not only can we do all this and have all this power, we are radically reducing the amount of time spent loading data that isn't necessarily needed at login time. So we're shortening login time.
That's huge.
You know, I just can't say enough good about this tool. Really.
Now this is an interesting feature here, right? Because what you're doing is you're trading let's say seconds at login for this app to pay for those seconds, right? Because when you load a registry or you copy files, right, you have to pay for it in time and bandwidth or whatever. You're trading it and you're saying, you know what? Only about 1/10 of, and I'm just thinking logically, someone might say only about 1/10 of my users use this app. And out of that 10th, only about half might use it on any given day. Why
Right.
should I load that every time every user in the environment logs in, and instead save that 2, 3, 4 seconds, whatever it happens to be on the profile load. And those that want to use it when they launch it, they'll pay the extra second or two to launch it and get their unique settings there. That's
Absolutely.
interesting.
Yes, sir. And I want to point out one more thing, and this is something that you and I have talked about previously. Not only are these conditions that I've already shown available to you, you can actually queue off of an exit code for a script that you have written. So if I write a script and I am the author of that script, it doesn't matter how complex my script is. As long as I pass an exit code of 0, I can say in here in DEM, if the exit code of this script is 0, do this thing, whatever this thing is, whether the thing be importing the settings for Firefox or whether the thing over here in the user environment, whether I'm talking about a privilege elevation. I can say, look, if I run my complex script and my script evaluates to true, then I want to go ahead and elevate their privilege for this particular application.
And that just has so many uses, right?
Oh,
Whether it's
yeah.
something that has to run every time they launch an app or log in, or whether it's one of those, hey, at the first time they ever run this, we have a set of configurations we have to set up and set up the exit code so that it knows, nope, this is already run, bam, move on.
Given the list of things that we can queue off of already, I've already told you, I can look at the day of the week, what are you the users in, what day, what time of day it is, what some qualities of their endpoint. So, not everybody will use scripting, but since scripting is readily and easily included here, this tool is nearly limitless in its expansive capabilities.
Man, I love it. I love it. This is a fun one. This is something that I don't think, and we had talked about this previously. I don't think that DEM gets enough attention. It's something that's there. It's a useful tool, but for some reason, I don't know, somebody still wants to argue about protocol stuff, right? Which when the real headaches don't come from, your protocol, the real headaches come from that everyday management within that workspace.
Well, we can actively manage protocol and how it's configured based on any of those parameters that you see on the screen there when I was going through the condition engine. So DEM is really a powerful tool. And I'm happy to spotlight it today. I'm happy to give it some more attention, and hopefully it can make things a little easier for some of our admins out there.
Man, I love it, Tom. I love it. And I appreciate you coming on today. I appreciate you, bringing up your demo and showing us how this works. For those of you folks that are out there, check this out. Check out DEM. You should, if you're not using it, I don't understand why you're at least not playing with it. I mean, is there any use case, Tom? Is there any VDI environment out there you think shouldn't at least have this turned on?
Not that I can think of. Not a Windows environment. I'll qualify. A
Windows environment,
VDI environment. I can't think of a reason not to have the tool available.
Yeah, unless you're like Joe's Plumbing and you've only got 2 desktops, somebody should be managing with this. They're writing scripts. They're beating themselves over the head. They should be dealing with this.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Awesome. Appreciate you being on today, Tom. Guys, that's it for this cool feature of the week. Check it out. DEM. Look at the conditional engine. It's important. Thanks a lot for being here. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.